Good afternoon, guys. I'm Chris, and welcome back to this Wednesday's episode of Rift Amps. Okay, following on from Sunday's video with the car sportsman and the issue with the speaker mounting, I wanted to show you the difference between the two mounting sizes of Celestion versus Eminence, and these are the two standards across the industry, and they're not the same. So Celestion. And I'm only showing the 4-hole example. Some speakers, as you know, have 8 mounting holes, but they would obviously be equidistant moving around the circle. So Celestion is 297mm diameter going across. Now this is this actual mounting holes, not the size of the speaker cutout, okay? So they use 297mm, and the size of the mounting hole in the frame is 7.9mm, again, in diameter. Eminence, however, slightly smaller, 294.4mm PCD. PCD stands for pitch circle diameter, and their mounting holes are smaller at 6.4mm, so 1.5mm smaller. Now, I'll zoom you in, and the black circle going around here is the Celestion, and the larger black mounting circles again are Celestion, so you can see which is which, and you've got the Eminence below it, and currently these are all centered on the middle, so you can see as we go around the circle you can kind of see it doesn't appear to be a large difference, but it is, and I'll show you why. Because let's say you're or in this case with the car sportsman, the stud spacing on the baffle is for the Eminence, and then you try and fit a Celestion speaker to it. Well, this is what happens. Okay, so this sheet of paper, you line up one perfectly at the top, as you can see. They're now lined up, and as we come around the circle, you can see we start to get a mismatch. And it's the same on that side there, and as we come round to the very bottom you can see just how offset that actually is. Now if you've got roughly a 4mm screw or stud, you're only now working in this tiny space here, and so of course no wonder what happens if you get your screw and you ram that in there. Of course it gets chewed up. Of course it causes a problem. So you have to be super careful when it comes to swapping speakers, that you don't mess things up. Now, what I have done in the past is sometimes I've modified the hole sizes in the actual speaker to get things to fit, if that was the only option, or sometimes you can just twist it slightly and it will go, but it's not optimal. Now, on the car baffle itself, some people have said, well, what you could do is, well, some people have said, why don't you just remove the T-nuts and put new ones in? Well, if we come in from the side, there's not enough room. You can see the thickness of the baffle itself. Let's zoom you. Let's get you focused in. Thickness of the baffle is quite thick, and there's not enough flex in the grill cloth to get one in and up. Now, as I said in the video, we're trying to avoid removing the grill cloth at all, right? So that's why we're not doing that. Also on this one at the top, you can see it's actually, let's get you focused. There you go. It's actually blocked by this extra piece of wood here, right? This top valance, as we'll call it. So that's not an option for us if we don't want to remove the grill cloth. Someone said, well, again, you could, let's at the 45 degree, put some studded inserts, and that might be the option. So you'll keep the correct PCD for Eminence, and we'll have a Celestion PCD on studs there. Now, I need to look into that because, again, I'm trying to risk not damaging anything or causing any problems, because if I mess this baffle up, guess who's paying for it? It's me. So, what we're going to do, or what I'm proposing to do is, first of all, when Ollie came on Friday, he actually had some of the correct 5/32 car screws. Need to be around this way, sorry. So these two are 5/32. This one is chewed up for M4, and that's the M4 screw, but he did this one up here. Again, the 5/32 now doesn't go in because that's all chewed up. So what we're going to do is, I've got my 5/32 tap set. I'm going to lightly tap these, just see if we can get those threads back into how they should be. And that should then, I can't get this thing open. Here we are. We'll start with that one. I'm going to lightly tap them. Hopefully we can get all those threads lined up exactly back where they need to be. And then we can just run 5/32 as normal. And then that fixes that problem. And then the customer can decide whether we do actually modify this for Celestion fitment and talk about those options, or whether he just runs a speaker with the correct PCD. Right, Q&A time. Lots of comments and questions this week, so thank you. So I do apologise if I don't get to yours, but usual rules apply. If I get lots of similar comments or questions, I'll just answer one of them, and hopefully that covers all. So please don't be offended if yours isn't shown on screen. It's just, you know, the first one that I come across, really. So anyway, James Underhill, regular commenter, says, brilliant, a Monday Rift video. Regarding the can cap, the one from Hayseed, although I'm sure you did your due diligence, how much of a leap of faith was it to order a one-off item like that? Not really. I mean, I was actually recommended to them, or came across them through one of the Facebook groups that I'm a member of. I'd seen kind of them before, and the people's experience of them and stuff like that. Now, obviously, it's 3 caps, you know, stuffed inside that enclosure. But that's the most important thing, is that I wanted that form factor. I wanted it to look like a high quality product, which of course it is. And they do have a lot of respect. Now, if it was a completely unknown company that no one had ever heard of, you might be a bit more hesitant to order from them. But, you know, it's that's what PayPal and that's what credit cards are for. So you've always got your buyer protection. So, yeah, it's not really a problem. I've actually been speaking to the chap since ordering that unit to actually make some more for me, some more custom units that they don't list, so, you know, certain values and things for stuff. So I've been very impressed with them so far. Obviously, anything that you get shipped from America now is expensive, not just shipping costs, but all the other bits and pieces as well. So, but that's part of it. You know, there's no one here in the UK that's doing something to that standard and that quality. So it really was the best option out there. So yeah, no problem at all. James also said, it would be cool to actually see a power transformer unwound so we could see how they do the connections. Yeah, maybe I'll do that on the channel one day. We'll when we get a knackered unit, we'll strip one down and I'll show you inside. Perilous Temple says, I would love to hear your thoughts on valves, tubes for you Americans, quality to price ratio, when to pursue NOS options, or NOS if ever. Always great content with a great host. Thank you very much. It's easy to tell you are a skilled teacher on top of it all too. Well, I do appreciate that. Valves. It's no secret that the overall quality of valves has dropped over the years. The stuff that was being made, especially in the 60s and 70s, were, you know, the kind of peak valve, peak quality. And it's mainly down to the quality of the metals used inside the valves. Now, as we know, there's only 4 or 5 factories now making valves in the world. And that's not to say that let's take a 12AX7 for example. They only produce one type and they label them. I could, for example, as a manufacturer or as a brand, I could approach any of these factories and say, I want you to make me a 12AX7, an ECC 83, but to my specs, and that could be unique to me, right? And that's what a lot of these brands do. So they're not just having the same thing relabeled, they're being built to their own specs. So just because one valve is made in one factory doesn't mean it's the same as another brand's valve that was also made in that factory. Okay. So there is that. Quality to price ratio. Valves have gone up in price anyway since, it started with the Ukraine war. That's when it really started to go up in price. Now, how to find good ones, and I think that's kind of where you're getting to on this. A valve reseller or a distributor will just order, I don't know, 1,000 units from the factory. The factory doesn't grade them, okay? So they'll just send out X amount of valves to whoever the reseller is. It's then up to the reseller to test and grade them into the various things, and they will, weed out the worst ones, and they'll be the bottom tier, and then they'll select the next ones, and then all the way up to the top tier, and they'll be the most expensive because they're the ones that perform the best electrically, are the lowest noise, etc., etc., etc. Right? If you always choose the cheapest option when it comes to valves from your reseller, the lowest grade options, the chance of you getting a crap one is quite high, right? So you have to be prepared to spend a little bit of extra money on the good ones, the ones that have been pre-selected and graded. Now, I've learned over the years which suppliers grade things to a better standard than others, and which ones to go for and which ones to avoid, and I have my own personal preference. So when when other techs on the internet go, well, I've had loads of problems with, I don't know, JJs or whatever, or TAD red bases, yeah, well, maybe you have, but maybe you've been buying the crap ones, the ones at the bottom of the pile, and if you'd only ever bought the best selected ones, you probably would have less problems with them. So that's a bit of a bugbear of mine. There is one guy on Instagram who swears by tongue sole valves, and I think great, good for him. But if I go to my supplier and I order 100 tongue sole 6L6s, for example, I could save myself a lot of money by only buying the rubbish ones, and then if I had loads of failures, my personal experience would be that tongue soles are crap, and that guy, I would assume that guy is telling porkies when actually he's probably not. Maybe he's just buying the really good ones, right? Do you get what I'm going with that? So always buy from a reputable reseller who grades and provides test sheets and all that kind of stuff and backs it up with a big old warranty and a no quibble return. That's the main thing. So when to pursue NOS options, if ever? Well, I'm going to give you a little secret here, my little tip for you, because first of all, NOS stands for new old stock. Now, the problem is the whole industry has kind of taken that term and misappropriated it. And what I mean by that is we just call any old valve NOS, which is not technically correct. For an old valve to be NOS, it has to be new old stock, which means it's brand new in a box, unused. If it comes out of an old amp, it's not NOS, it's old stock, vintage but used, ancient but tested, whatever you want to call it, right? So people should stop saying, oh, I really like NOS valves, when they've pulled it out of a piece of working equipment that's got, 500 hours on it. That's not new old stock anymore. So stop doing it. It annoys me. Right? Should you go for them if you want to spend the money? But for me, the real answer always lies in your ears. If you can hear a difference, or it inspires you to make more music, then yes, absolutely go for it. But I don't use them in my amps mainly because I can't. I'm a UK/EU based manufacturer, so I can't use them because a lot of them aren't ROS compliant. Also, I can't warrant them. I can't get any guarantees or backups from any of my suppliers on them, so I just don't use them. I use high quality, high graded selected valves, and my reliability record on them is pretty high. So yeah, that's my role on them. But if you want to get some great, personally, I think the sonic differences between them is smaller than people like to make out. I would much rather have a brand new high quality valve that sounds better than a used old valve that just has got some mojo with it. That's me. You might be different. Some of the old Telefunkens and RFTs are pretty good, and yellow print Mullards are pretty much always a good bet, but you got to pay for them. So yeah, I tend to stay away from all of that now, and just new production that's high quality and high graded. There you go. That's my rant. Right, back on with the reverb on the Deluxe Reverb reissue. I've been doing a lot of work off camera trying to get my head around what's going on, but I think I've cracked it. So we've got two issues. The first issue is the tank itself, because I was bench testing everything. The reverb works perfectly with my own test tank and my own test cable, but substitute any of those for the original unit, so either the original tank or the original connector cable, the reverb starts to play up or not work at all. So let's go through and we'll bench test what we've got. So here is the Accutronics 4AB 3C 1B standard Fender reverb tank, the one they've used across pretty much everything. So it's pretty standard. Now this has an 8-ohm input and a 22,500 ohm output. Now that's impedance, not DC resistance. So we can't actually measure impedance. We can only measure DC resistance. Okay, so the confusion comes, and I hear this all the time, is that it should be 8 ohm, like people are trying to measure an 8 ohm speaker and they don't get 8 ohms when they measure it with a multimeter, and they get confused. Well, it's because both impedance and resistance are measured in ohms, but they mean very different things. Long story short, or to simplify it, resistance is for DC and impedance is for AC. Now impedance changes with frequency, so we won't get into any of that, but here's what you should know. If we test the 8 ohm coil on the input of this tank, the DC reading, if it's good, should be around 0.8 ohms, so less than 1 ohm. So if I bring my meter in, see we've got 0 ohms there, and if I measure across the coil, okay, so close enough, right? roughly where we expect it to be. So it's an 8 ohm impedance, but it's DC resistance. The spec sheet says it's 0.8 ohms, and we've got roughly 0.7. That's fine. Let's check the output. Now the output, its impedance, as I said, 22,500 ohms impedance, should be around 45 ohms DC. You're going to need that to see, aren't you? So again, if I come across and measure this coil, open circuit. So we have either a faulty coil or a faulty plug. So if I disconnect the plug, and we'll just measure across the pins there, still reading open circuit. So that transducer has gone bang. So we've got a faulty reverb tank. So the tank is going to need to be replaced. However, I also noticed on the what we're trying to say, the reverb cables that connect the tank to the chassis, that the send cable, which in this case was black, is open circuit as well. So both the tank and the cable have failed, so it's going to need both units replacing. All right, cool. Richard Halstead says, Chris, I'm not a fan of hot glue used to secure components. Hot glue has its place, but not in amplifiers. It's a pet hate of mine. I can understand that. I really can. You know, that's I get that. I understand why some people do it. I agree there are better ways to make a mechanical connection than hot glue, or a supportive connection. I stopped using hot glue in my own amps because I was finding that in certain places the glue could start to remelt and flow, which is why, especially for filter caps on my boards, you've seen me do it. You know, I use the old foam tape to stop any rattles and to give them the support that they need. So I've stopped doing it, but I understand why some people do. Now, hot glue is one of those things where it's incredibly easy to make something look very messy, and therefore you've got to take a lot of time and a lot of skill to keep it looking neat and tidy. Now, if you're building and selling an amplifier based on build standards and things, then you've got to be really, really good with hot glue to justify using it, I think, from an aesthetic point of view anyway. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I understand what you're saying and why you're saying it. I personally don't use it anymore. I have done in the past, but I just prefer to use the foam tape now. Wade Summer says, are there Celestians for the American market, or is that an older one? Just had a look at my two that I put in my 2x12 DeVille. They have 8 holes for mounting. It's not an American versus British thing. Some certain models will have 8 holes around the frame. Some will only have 4. And it's not just a Celestian thing. Other brands do it as well. Now, in my opinion, all speaker frames should have 8 holes, right? That just gives them the most versatility to install them in any amp. So a lot of amps that use the speaker screws, not T-nuts and bolts, some of the Fender ones, for example, will have 8 in there, and therefore you can't put a 4-hole speaker on that because you've got 4 extra studs in the way. So, but you know, if every manufacturer just used 8 holes, regardless of the PCD, I mean, in fact, it'd be nice if everyone used the same PCD as well. I mean, that's, you know, that's an obvious one. But yeah, it's not an American versus British thing or an old thing. You still get them now. I remember the first time I came across it, a customer brought into me. In fact, it was a deluxe reverb reissue with the 8 speaker studs, and he had bought a 4-hole vintage 30. Yeah. And we couldn't install that in his amp because, you know, that was the way it was. So, yeah, it is annoying. It's one of those things that they should just have an industry standard and they should stick with it, but they don't. You have to be aware of it. Also, I do have further thoughts on speaker swaps in general, but we'll get into that another time, because again, it's probably a 15-20 minute conversation. But yeah, we'll think about that anyway. Regular commenter Russ says, "Hi Chris, very interesting episode as per usual. I'm learning new stuff by the week." Well, I'm glad that you are, and that's the whole point of the channel, that we try and keep these things educational and fun, without keeping it too technical. Always wondered how a reverb unit works, and now I know. Well, you're welcome. Race car number 22. Are you planning on becoming a world champion? Not a world champion, no, just a UK champion. 22 was Jenson Button's Formula 1 number when he won his world championship in 2009. Yes, I fully remember. That's one of the reasons I run number 22. The other is just a personal joke between myself and a friend of mine, and while we run the 2RM motorsport banner. But yeah, it's just a little bit of a personal joke, which probably is too rude and embarrassing to to say on the internet. So maybe I'll tell you one day. But there you go. Thanks for the comment, Russ. I do appreciate that. And comment regarding the volume of adverts versus my YouTube videos from Derek. He says, "Volume users should check in their video settings the cogwheel next to the closed captioning setting in each video that the stable volume slider is off if they want their videos at full volume. This is a new setting YouTube recently rolled out." Well, I did not know that, but there you go. So it's probably it is a new YouTube thing, and it's not something that I've done. And of course I knew I hadn't, because I hadn't changed anything. But of course, I do want you guys to hear what I'm saying. So, yeah, but thanks, Derek. I do appreciate that. I did not know. But, yeah, we have found our answer. In parallel to us fixing the baffle on the car sportsman cabinet, I've got the chassis up on the bench. I just thought I'd do some basic bench checks, give it a health check, see where we are with things, run through some basic bits and pieces, because we need to make sure that there are no immediately obvious and dangerous problems with the amplifier, which I'm pleased to say I've yet to find. But I'll walk through on the camera where this chassis currently is, what it's doing, how it's behaving, all those sort of things. So just bear with me. Sorry about that. Bad news. The Compu-Bias has died. I'm not sure why. I've swapped out the battery, even though the other battery was still at 9 volts, but it's just not powering on at all. Even if I swap the probes over, it should switch on automatically when you plug one of the probes, into socket 1. And it doesn't matter which way around I have them, it's dead. So we're going to have to open it up and have a look. But anyway, it was working, and it just switched off. The output valve's currently biased at 13 watts. Now, if these were modern 6v6s, which are rated at 14 watts, the bias is absolutely fine. If they're vintage style or designed around vintage style, or even vintage themselves, and 12 watts, then they are too hot, but we can look into that another time. I've got another microphone up against the speaker, so we'll put it in. We'll turn the speaker on. You can hear the hiss level. I'll turn the reverb up as well. In fact, I have all the controls up. If I go through and tap the valves, so V1 is ever so slightly noisy, but when I say ever so slightly, I mean that's nowhere near microphonic. And I've got the gain cranked as well, so it's in its most sensitive state. So I'm not worried about that whatsoever. Socket's a bit dirty. V2's okay. V3's okay. V4's okay. So we've got some socket cleaning to do on V1, or at least cleaning the pins on the valve, whichever it may be. But we've certainly got... It's noisy, but it wouldn't cause the issues that the customer was complaining about. Apart from that, that's really the only thing I've found. So let me just turn all of this back down, apart from the output. Connect it up to the oscilloscope with dummy load. We'll drive the output. Oh, I've got turned off here. Bring you round so you can see what it's doing on the scope. There it is. And here's our output sine wave. So you see it's probably got a cathodion style phase inverter, so we get slightly asymmetrical output sine wave. Bring it up to the point of clipping, back it back down. That's about the cleanest it will go. 10.4 volts into 8 ohms. We'll call it 10.5. That puts us at 13.8 watts. Probably about right for one of these, I would have thought. Treble control, we crank that up. Seems to be okay. If I crank the gain up as well, there's no high frequency or parasitic oscillations going on. And what will be interesting to do is we now tap this V1. We'll see what it does on the scope. Nothing. So there's nothing coming through the circuit, nor at least what the oscilloscope can pick up. So we'll just turn everything back down. But there you go. Okay, so at the moment, based on initial bench testing, can't really fault find the chassis. There's nothing immediately wrong, burnt, dangerous, damaged, whatever you choose. I know we had a look at this on the previous video, but here we are. So I think for the time being, we don't need to worry about the chassis. We need to focus on the cabinet itself. We need to get that cabinet and the baffle fixed up, the correct size speaker fitted, everything nice and secure and snugged down. Make sure that's not causing any other issues. But I certainly don't find anything immediately obvious with the chassis or the valve. So we'll call that good news on one side of the coin, but bad news on the other, because we've yet to find the cause of customer complaint. Referencing the Princeton Reverb clone, Peter says 16 watts from Princeton. I always thought these were 12 to 14 watts. Well, the originals were, but with a few easy mods and a little bit of thinking and understanding, you can easily get a lot more out of a Princeton Reverb circuit than 12 watts. My own PR18, as the name, I think it would be quite obvious actually, is 18 watts. And if you really want to push it, you can get 20 watts at just 2% THD. So yeah, it's you can squeeze a lot of power out of 6v6s if you know what you're doing. Rodney Croche, hello mate, says another enjoyable and informative video, Chris. You are more than welcome. Here is a question. Do you listen to music in your shop? When you are not filming for YouTube, of course. If so, what type of music do you enjoy? Keep up the good work. Now, yes, I do. I listen to a lot of music here in the shop. When you're doing long hours at the bench, especially when you're wiring up an amp, you've got to have the right music on, gets you in the right mind frame. And so I listen mainly to two different genres of music. The first one is I listen to a lot of country music, specifically guys like Brad Paisley, Keith Urban, Zach Brown Band, stuff like that. Guitar music that's also really bloody tuneful, right? Love that. So that goes on. I've got a couple of playlists that I listen to, but my absolute favourite stuff is I've got a real love of smooth sounds, right? So I listen to a lot of smooth jazz. And before you all recoil in horror, you know, if you ever listened to Foreplay, you know, especially when Larry Carlton was playing guitar, and of course Nathan East on bass, you get it, right? Incredible players. Just there's a great concert on YouTube when they do the Newport Jazz Festival, and you can just see both of them just playing off each other. It's absolutely brilliant. So a lot of smooth jazz, not just the guitar stuff. A lot of the guys like Dave Koz, fantastic sax player. Brian Culbertson, incredible blues keys player. Sorry. In fact, I went to see Dave Koz when he last toured the UK. Brilliant. In terms of the guitarists, Norman Brown and Peter White, of course, just brilliant. Now, when it comes to smooth jazz, I know this sounds odd. I only listen to the instrumental only smooth jazz, because smooth jazz with vocals doesn't quite have that thing that it should do. But if you want those smooth sounds with vocals, there's an absolutely incredible yacht rock playlist on Spotify, which I'll put up on the screen now so you know what it is. I just kind of like that smooth sound and feel. Now, with all of those smooth jazz guys, their backing bands, Ollie Silk is another one. I really enjoy Ollie Silk. Their backing bands, they are insane, absolutely incredible. I mean, most of them are gospel players who are at the absolute top of their game, right? Unbelievable. And so there's a great it's Brian Culbertson live in Las Vegas, his Colours of Love tour. He's an incredible player and musician anyway, but just watch his backing band, man. They're just insane. So yeah, I've got a couple of smooth jazz playlists that I'll put on, again with yacht rock. Sometimes I'll do some of the instrumental stuff, the vocal stuff, you know, a bit of Shack Attack maybe, but I just like those smooth sounds, and that's just where I am. So yeah, a lot of stuff like that. There's a great British smooth jazz guitar player, Roberto. Oh, I've lost his surname now, but I'll put him up on the screen. Incredible player, big fan of his. But yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of Larry Carlton as well, of course. And then, you know, guys like Steve Lukather, he lives in that world as well. Yeah, just big. A lot of those real great guitar players who do that kind of stuff. Love it, big fan. So yeah, that and country music. And then on the other side of that, a lot of Iron Maiden. Often do love a bit of Maiden. Gutted. I saw them a lot when I was a teenager, but not really much as an adult. And I'm gutted now that Nico's retired. So, but I would still want to go and see the three guitarists again: Yannick, Dave, and Adrian. Yeah, I'd love to go and see. I want to see Fear of the Dark played live again. One more time. I need to go see that. So yeah, a lot of stuff like that. But yeah, and then, you know, being that I'm a British bloke of a certain age, grew up in the Britpop era. You know, a lot of those Britpop bands certainly come on every now and again. But why not? You know, it's a bit of as like most people, an eclectic taste, but it's mainly smooth jazz in the workshop. So, if you want to get into smooth jazz, I really recommend listening to, there's a great online radio station. It's called Best Smooth Jazz. The host is a guy called Rod Lucas. he does an incredible show, puts on loads of stuff, and it's how I discovered most of these people. It's just when I was doing those long late night drive home on the motorway, I put on BSJ, and you just eat the miles up, grooving away to all these cracking artists. So yeah, I could talk about smooth jazz for hours. Anyway, yeah, hope that answers your question. It's probably not what you were thinking, right? But yeah, I absolutely love it. So there you go. Thanks, Rodney. I do appreciate the question. Whilst we're here then, let's have a quick look at the Compu-Bias, see if we can work out what is going on, or at least if there is anything immediately obvious. So 9-volt battery, 9-volt DC, 9.18 volts. So we know it's got a good power supply to it. So I haven't looked inside this yet, but it's not triggering when, as I showed you, when you plug one of the probes into socket 1. So that's clearly where the on-off switch is, or whatever circuitry it uses to trigger it to power on. And there's going to be a lot of stress, so I want to have a look around all the solder joints around that socket, just in case there's something that's cracked over time with use. God, this is like a big Clive video, isn't it? Okay. So to get those out then, I think I need a new PH1 driver, because that one is chewed up. Right then. Flip it over. Not much going on, is there? Can I get these terminals out? No. Right. So this is socket 1. Annoyingly, they look okay. Socket 2. Again, they look okay. So socket 1. So just like we always do with a visual inspection, we're just looking for anything obvious. Cracked joints, something that's burnt or damaged. Not seeing anything. You spin it over. There's some resistors there that appear to be okay. There's a tantalum cap in there. How are you going to get to that though? You're going to have to desolder all of these pins to get the screen board off. Some other caps in there as well. Right. So let's pop the battery back in. Let's get one of the probes, connect it up again, see if we can get this thing to come back to life. Battery's definitely in. Let's pop the back cover on to hold it in place so it doesn't move. Tell you what we could do. Let's just check we're getting 9 volts to the pins on the back. Yep. Okay. Nothing. Nada. Wiggle it. Oh! Do you see it pop on a minute then? Ah, I think the socket's worn. I can feel a lot of play in it. You see it moving? Oh, you see that go then? What did I do there? Problem is, I don't know whether the issue lies in the socket or if the unit is actually turning on and it's the display that's... No, it's cycling, look. So it has to be a power thing. Okay, so positive from the battery goes to here, which is this. I think it's just the socket. Oh, no, I can't get it to turn. Oh, there you go. Just wondering if it's the power supply. No. Tug test. No. Hold it flat. No. No. So I'm not looking through the camera, I'm looking at the unit itself. Right, so moving the socket towards the camera, so it's doing that. Doesn't do it. Go the opposite direction. Doesn't do it. Let's go left. No. Right. No, let's twist it that way. No. Other way. No. I just need to check what the socket sounds like with this one. Okay, when I'm in this socket, you can hear it crunching. But this one, very much less so. I think that socket's just worn out. So there you go, it's come back on now. It's cycling power, isn't it, every time? So there's something... Right. Hopefully I can fix this by replacing this socket. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Plus the outer, so that's 9, isn't it? 9 pinned in. Okay. Well, hopefully we've learnt something. But fingers crossed. We'll see if we can get one of these on order, swap it out, and hopefully that fixes the issue. Well, that's it then, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, as always, please give this video a thumbs up. Hit the notification bell so you know when new videos come out. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're feeling super Jonas, why not join the channel like these guys have? And I will catch you all at the next one.